Dear children, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. These words are not just an invitation but a living promise for each of you. We know there are moments when the pain feels unbearable, when the struggles of life pile up, leaving you feeling alone, wandering through an endless desert. But we want you to know, you are not alone. Right, Father. I adore you and trust in you. If you sense God's loving presence guiding your steps, we see the exhaustion you carry, the doubts that surround you, the anxieties you hide even from yourselves. You may feel that no one notices the weight you bear or that your prayers have fallen on deaf ears, but rest assured, every tear, every sigh of pain is heard and embraced by a God who never abandons you. Let your faith be registered with a like right now if the words of God touch your heart. Allow these words to profoundly touch your souls. Every battle you face, every challenge that seems insurmountable, is something God wishes to transform. His love for you is infinite, greater than any suffering, greater than any despair. He is by your side, even when everything seems dark and lost. Listen carefully and let these words renew the hope that still lives within you. Perhaps you are tired of fighting. Perhaps you feel your strength is fading. It is at this moment that God invites you to lay all your burdens on Him. He wants to lighten the load you carry, heal the wounds that prevent you from moving forward, and reignite the flame of faith and peace in your lives. God is here. He has not forgotten you, never has. He is simply waiting for you to open your hearts, to allow Him to envelop you in His embrace of love and care. Now we invite you, listen until the end. Do not ignore this call, for it is for you, who need rest and relief. Discover the divine embrace that God has prepared for each of you. Today can be the beginning of a transformation so profound and powerful that nothing will ever be the same. God is waiting, arms wide open, to offer you the peace and renewal you so desperately need. Accept this invitation and let His love fill your souls. From the very beginning, every detail of your life has been planned with love. Even when you feel that everything is out of place, there is a promise that transcends any storm. The promise that you are not alone. God, who sustains the stars in the sky and the breath of life within you, never abandons those He loves. I have come to be the link between you and this promise, to show you that no matter how heavy the burden, there is relief, there is renewal. If you have ever wondered if there is purpose in all of this or if the pains you face have meaning, I want you to look at me. Every step I took on earth was to show you that suffering is not the end but the preparation for something greater. Every tear you shed is not ignored, it is welcomed. God transforms those tears into seeds of future joy because His love never fails. Now repeat after me. God, guide me to my purpose. Say these words as a declaration of faith, as a request for direction, and as you speak, imagine a weight being lifted from your shoulders. Imagine a light shining on the path ahead of you. That is what God wants to do for you. Open doors where you only see walls. Bring clarity where there is confusion, and replace fear with confidence. I want you to know that God's promise is alive. It is not just something you read or hear, but something that can transform your life here and now. Your strength comes from this promise, not from your abilities or circumstances. And when you believe this, even the highest mountains can be moved. Do you feel alone? You are not. I have come to assure you of that. Even when those around you do not understand your struggles, God does. Even when the world seems to ignore your pain, He sees it. And He does not just see, He acts. He is the one who works in silence, moving pieces you cannot see, preparing paths you cannot yet imagine. I know that trusting is difficult, especially when the answers are delayed. But I want you to remember this. God's timing is not a delay, but a preparation. Every moment of waiting strengthens your faith. Every battle shapes who you are. Every silence is an opportunity to hear His voice. Do not give up. Trust that God is faithful. If you still have doubts, look at me. I am the living proof that God never abandons His children. Even when I faced the cross, God was with me, transforming the darkest moment into the greatest victory. So it will be with you. Your pain will be transformed into joy. Your losses will be redeemed, and your life will be a testimony that God is good. I invite you to continue with me, not just today, but every day. Walk beside me, because together we will see God's promises fulfilled. And as you move forward, remember that God's light is upon you. guiding every step, strengthening every decision. I know how sometimes you feel alone, as if you are battling the struggles of life without anyone by your side. The world can be a relentless place, and the voices around you can drown out the truth you need to hear. But today, I want to remind you of something that never changes. Even when everything around you seems to crumble, God is present. He always has been, and He always will be. Imagine an invisible shield around you. This shield is not made of steel, but of God's unwavering love. No matter how strong the storm, how high the waves, or how dark the path seems, you are not alone. God is with you in every step, in every breath, in every struggle. This presence is like the air you breathe, always there, sustaining you, even when you do not perceive it. If you have ever felt as if God was distant, I want you to know that it is just a feeling. God never distances Himself from His children. He is like the sun behind the clouds. Even if you cannot see Him, He continues to shine. Amidst the chaos, He is present, working in details your eyes cannot yet see. His presence does not depend on how you feel, but on His faithfulness to fulfill what He promised. Remember that God is not like the world. He does not abandon you when things get tough. No matter how many times you have failed, how many doubts you have carried, or how lost you have felt, God remains faithful. He does not turn away when you err. Instead, He draws closer, calls you by name, and says, "I am here, I always have been, and I will never leave you." If you have ever looked up at the sky on a starless night, you know how infinite the darkness can seem. But even in the darkest night, there comes a moment when light begins to rise on the horizon. Such is the presence of God. Even when everything seems lost, He is there, bringing hope, restoring strength, and renewing your vision. You may not realize it in the moment, but every step taken in darkness is guided by His hand. I know that the struggles you face are real. The doubts, the fears, the uncertainties, everything can feel unbearable. But I want you to know that you are not facing these things alone. God is a constant companion, a faithful friend, the one who never abandons you, even when the world seems to have left you behind. He is by your side in silence, but never absent. If you listen closely, you will find His voice. It does not compete with the noise around you. It is a gentle whisper, a certainty deep in your soul that reminds you, "You are mine, and I am with you." No matter what the day brings, this truth never changes. God is not just a distant force. He is Emmanuel, God with us, living and moving in your life. You may wonder how you can feel this presence, how you can be sure that God is really there. The answer lies in opening yourself up, in trusting, in calling on Him. Every time you bend your knees in prayer, every time you hand over your worries and fears, you invite God to manifest in ways that go beyond what you can imagine. And He always responds because He never leaves a sincere heart unanswered. I want you to picture yourself now in a safe place, a place where fear cannot enter. This place is not outside of you, but within. It is the space where God dwells, where He holds you with firm and loving hands, reminding you that you are not alone. It is in this place that you find the strength to continue, the courage to face challenges, and the peace to rest, even amid the storm. When the world tries to tell you that you are alone, remember that it is a lie. God is with you. He is in every detail of your life, in every breath you take, in every step you make. His presence is the assurance that you will not face anything alone, that every struggle has a purpose, and that you will be sustained. No matter where you are, no matter how far you feel you have strayed, God is present. He is by your side in moments of joy and celebration, but also on days of pain and silence. He is there when you laugh and also when you cry. He sees every tear and knows every thought, and He never leaves you. Today, I invite you to rest in this presence. Let go of fears, doubts, and worries. God is in control. His presence is constant, firm, and unshakable. And even when you don't feel it, He is acting. He is the rock on which you can lean, the light that illuminates your path, and the refuge where you find peace. Trust in the presence of God. It is more real than any storm you face. And as you walk, remember that God is not just with you. He is for you. He is the shield that protects you, the hand that guides you, and the love that never abandons you. You are deeply loved, and that will never change. I see the burdens you carry. I see the worries that steal your peace, the fears that occupy your mind, and the burdens that seem to grow every day. But today I want to remind you of something essential. You do not have to carry this alone. God never intended for you to face life's battles without help. On the contrary, He calls you to trust, to let go, to surrender everything to Him. And cast your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. Psalm 55:22. These words are not just advice, but a promise. God is telling you right now that there is no problem too big, nor detail too small, that He is not willing to carry for you. He sees the weight that tires you out and is ready to relieve you. Letting go of your burdens means recognizing that you were not made to face everything alone. Often, pride or fear prevents us from letting go, from trusting that God can do what we cannot. But I want you to know, surrendering your worries to God is not weakness. It is an act of courage, of faith, of surrender to the care of the one who loves you more than you can comprehend. I know it is not easy to let go. Sometimes, the burdens you carry feel so deeply rooted that it's hard to even imagine life without them. You might think, but this is my responsibility. Or, if I don't take care of this, who will? I want you to know that God is not asking you to abandon your responsibilities, but to trust that He is by your side in each of them. He is not asking you to give up, but to rest in Him while you continue to move forward. When you hand over your burdens to God, something powerful happens. The load that seemed unbearable begins to lose its weight. This does not mean that problems disappear instantly, but rather that you no longer face them alone. God takes control, and with Him by your side, what seemed impossible becomes possible. His strength is made perfect in your weakness. I want you to think now about something that has been weighing on your heart. Perhaps it's a concern about the future, a pain from the past, or a fear that paralyzes you in the present. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine giving this to God. Visualize His open hands, ready to hold what you can no longer carry. And as you surrender, feel the relief, the peace, the assurance that He is taking care of everything. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. These are words that Jesus spoke directly to the hearts of those who were tired, overloaded, trying to do everything alone. He knew that we cannot face life's storms with our own strength, and that is why He offers us something the world cannot: rest for the soul. Surrendering your burdens is not just a symbolic act, it is a practical decision. Start by identifying what is weighing you down. Is it a financial worry? A relationship that needs healing? An important decision that seems confusing? Bring that before God in prayer. Talk to Him openly, as you would with a close friend. Say, God, I can't carry this alone. I'm handing it over to you because I trust in your care. As you release your concerns, remember that God is a loving Father. He not only listens, but acts. He not only promises, but fulfills. His faithfulness is unchanging, and the love He has for you is eternal. He sees what you do not see, knows what you do not know, and is always working in your favor. Often, God's answers do not come in the way we expect. You may not see an immediate result, but that does not mean He is not acting. God works behind the scenes, aligning circumstances, moving hearts, and preparing the way. Your only responsibility is to trust, rest, and keep walking in faith. When you release your burdens, something incredible begins to happen. You start to experience a peace that doesn't depend on the circumstances around you. This peace flows like a river within you, washing away anxiety, calming chaos, and bringing clarity. No matter how fierce the storm, you can walk in confidence, knowing that God is in control. I want you to imagine your life as a ship. The burdens you carry are like weights that slow down your journey, preventing you from reaching the places God has prepared for you. When you let go of these weights, the ship begins to move with more freedom. And that's exactly what God wants to do in your life, to set you free so you can advance without the burdens that hold you back. Today, make a commitment to yourself. Don't carry alone what God has already offered to bear. Release the weight, trust His plan, and experience the freedom that comes when you rest in the assurance that you are in the hands of the one who never fails. God is calling you to a place of rest. He is saying, "Leave it to me." And when you trust Him, you discover that no matter how heavy the burden was, with Him, everything becomes light. I know that on many days, you feel like your strength is waning. The struggles you face seem endless, and the challenges that arise are greater than you expected. But today, I want to remind you that there is a greater strength that sustains you, one that never fails and is available to you at every moment, the strength that comes from God. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Isaiah 40:31. This promise is not just a metaphor. It is a reality that God wants you to experience. When you choose to trust Him, your strength is not only renewed, it is multiplied. You don't just survive the challenges. You find in God the capacity to overcome them. The strength that comes from God is different from human strength. Our strength is limited, fragile, and often based on circumstances. When things are going well, we feel confident, but when the weight increases, our natural capacity is insufficient. It is exactly at this moment that God's strength comes into action. It doesn't depend on how you feel or what you can do. It is constant, available, and perfectly suited for every battle you face. Perhaps you are going through a season where everything seems difficult. Work, relationships, the decisions you need to make. Everything feels like it is draining your energy and leaving you directionless. I want you to know that God sees this. He knows every detail of your struggle and is ready to strengthen you. He doesn't ask you to face everything alone. On the contrary, He invites you to surrender your weaknesses to Him so that His strength can operate within you. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Corinthians 12:10. These words remind us that our limitations are not the end. In fact, they are the starting point for God to show His power in our lives. When we recognize our incapacity, we make room for God to work miraculously. His strength not only compensates for our weaknesses, but empowers us to go beyond what we thought was possible. Imagine an empty cup being filled with water. That is what happens when you allow God to be your strength. Where there was once fatigue, vigor emerges. Where there was once discouragement, courage arises. Where there was once fear, confidence grows. Not because you have changed on your own, but because God is acting in you. God never promised that you wouldn't face difficulties, but He did promise that He would be with you in each one. He is the source of strength you need, the safe haven where you can rest and regain your spirit. Even when you feel you cannot take another step, He supports you, carries you, and propels you forward. I want you to think now of something that has been draining your strength. Perhaps it is a situation that feels hopeless or a problem that keeps resurfacing. Close your eyes and imagine handing this over to God. Visualize His hands receiving this weight as He fills you with renewal. This divine exchange, your weakness for His strength, is what allows you to continue even when everything feels difficult. God's strength is also strategic. He doesn't just sustain you, He guides you. In moments of confusion, He brings clarity. When you don't know where to go, He lights the path. And when you feel you can't go on, He renews your energy so you can keep moving forward. This strength is not just physical. It is an inner strength that gives you peace amid chaos, courage amid fear, and hope amid despair. I know there are days when you wonder if you can keep going. The weight of life can feel overwhelming, and the voices around you may try to convince you that you are not enough. But I want you to know that those voices are wrong. God created you with a purpose, and He will never allow you to face something you cannot bear with His help. His strength is sufficient for you. I want you to imagine a stream of water flowing inside you. This water doesn't dry up. It never stops flowing. It is God's strength in your life, renewing everything that is worn, clearing away what is heavy, and bringing new life. This strength does not come from you, but from the God who loves you deeply and who never abandons you. Today, God is calling you to trust Him, to let His strength operate in you fully. He is saying, "Child, you don't need to carry this alone. I am your strength, your fortress, your support. Hand over your weaknesses to me and see what I can do in your life. And as you walk, remember that this strength is not just for today. It is renewed daily. Every moment you turn to God, He never tires of strengthening you. He never runs out of helping you. His strength is inexhaustible, like a river that never runs dry. Let this truth fill you. God is your strength. No matter how high the mountain or how deep the valley, He sustains you. No matter how heavy the burden, He carries it for you. Trust, rest, and keep going. With God's strength, you can do all things. I know that often, life feels like a journey full of uncertainties. You face situations you don't understand, encounter losses you can't explain, and walk paths that seem endless. Perhaps you have asked yourself, why is this happening to me? Or, does all of this have a purpose? Today, I want to remind you of a powerful truth. God has a greater plan, even when you can't see it. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. These words are a promise for your life. God is not just watching from afar, He is actively working in every detail. Every moment of pain, every struggle, and every unexpected twist is part of a plan aimed at something greater than you can imagine. Trusting in God's purpose does not mean understanding everything.
In fact, it often means accepting what we cannot comprehend. God sees the big picture, while we see only a small part. He knows where each piece fits, how every event contributes to the greater good. Even when it seems as though the path is crumbling, He is building something beautiful and lasting. Think of a tapestry. When you look at it from the back, it appears to be a confusing tangle of threads. Nothing makes sense.
But when you look at it from the front, you see a work of art. This is how God's plan works. From our perspective, some things seem messy or purposeless, but in His eyes, every thread is exactly where it needs to be. I know that trusting in God's purpose can be challenging, especially when the pain is great or the wait is long. Perhaps you are facing a situation that seems hopeless or waiting for an answer that never seems to come. But I want you to know, God has not forgotten you. He is working, even in silence, even when it seems like nothing is happening. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Romans 8:28. This promise assures us that in all circumstances, even the most difficult, God is working for your good. This does not mean that everything will be easy or pain-free, but it means that nothing will be wasted. Every tear, every doubt, every struggle is being used to shape you, strengthen your faith, and draw you closer to what God has prepared. Perhaps you have faced moments when you thought you wouldn't have the strength to go on, but look at where you are now. Isn't this proof that God has been with you all along? He has never left you, even in times when you couldn't feel His presence. Just as He was there in the past, He is with you now and will continue to support you in the future. Trust in God's purpose even when the road seems difficult. Remember that He is like a careful gardener, planting seeds in your life that, in due time, will blossom. Some seeds take longer to germinate, but when they grow, they produce lasting fruit. Trust that He is cultivating something extraordinary in you, even if all you see now is barren soil. When doubt arises, turn your eyes to God. Talk to Him about your fears, your worries, and your questions. He is not offended by your doubts. On the contrary, He welcomes them with love and patience. God understands what is in your heart and wants you to trust Him completely. This trust is what will allow you to rest, even amid uncertainty. If you feel like you are going in circles or have lost your way, I want you to know that God is your guide. He is the one who makes a way in the desert, who transforms what seems dead into something full of life. Even if you don't know where you are going, trust that God is leading you to the right place. His guidance is perfect, and He never fails. Today, I invite you to surrender all areas of your life where you feel a lack of clarity to God. Say, God, I trust in your purpose. Even if I don't see the way ahead, I know you are in control. And as you do this, feel the weight of doubt and fear dissolve, replaced by a peace that comes from the assurance that God is with you. Remember that every challenge you face is an opportunity to experience God's care and power. He does not allow you to face anything alone. He uses every situation to strengthen your faith, shape your character, and prepare you for the plans that are yet to come. And when you look back, you will see how each piece fit together perfectly. Trust in God's greater purpose for your life. No matter where you are now, what you have faced, or what is to come, know that He is in control. His promises are faithful, and His plan is good. He is guiding you step by step toward the future He has prepared for you, a future filled with hope and purpose. Peace. How often do you seek it in the wrong places? in temporary situations, in circumstances that seem to promise comfort but never truly satisfy. The world around you may be chaotic, filled with uncertainties and noise that try to steal your tranquility. But today, I want to remind you that there is a true, deep, and constant peace that comes directly from God. This peace does not depend on what happens outside of you, but on the presence of God dwelling in your heart. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. John 14:27. These are the words of Jesus, a gift he offers to each of us. This peace is unlike anything you have ever experienced. It is not fragile or fleeting. It is firm, unshakable, and capable of calming even the greatest internal storms. Perhaps you are facing moments when peace seems distant, the pressures of daily life, problems that seem to pile up, and doubts that invade your mind can make you feel lost or restless. But I want you to know, God is present in each of these moments, ready to offer the peace that surpasses all understanding. This peace does not ignore the challenges but gives you strength to face them with serenity. Think of a calm lake. Even when the wind blows hard and the waves stir on the surface, there is a depth in the lake where everything remains still. This is how the peace God gives you works. On the surface, life may appear turbulent, but deep within your being, there is a place of rest where God operates, where he speaks gently and where his presence brings calm. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:3. This promise reminds us that inner peace is closely tied to trust in God. When you hand over your worries to him and choose to trust in his care, you experience a calm that cannot be shaken by circumstances. This peace is not something you need to earn. It is a gift that God offers you as long as you accept it. Now, I want you to imagine all the things that have been stealing your peace. It could be a difficult decision you need to make, a strained relationship, or even a fear of the future. Now visualize giving these worries to God, one by one, as if you are placing heavy packages into the hands of someone strong and trustworthy. God is saying to you, "Leave it to me. I will take care of it." And as you hand over these burdens, allow his peace to envelop you like a warm embrace, bringing relief and rest. The peace of God does not mean the absence of problems, but the assurance that you are not facing anything alone. When you turn to God in prayer and open your heart to him, you create space for his peace to fill every empty corner of your soul. No matter how loud the noise around you may be, you can find tranquility in God. If you have ever felt like you were caught in a storm, you know how difficult it can be to keep your focus and calm. But I want you to remember a powerful story. When the disciples were in a boat facing a storm, Jesus was with them. As the wind blew and the waves threatened to sink the boat, Jesus simply said, "Quiet, be still," and the waters obeyed. He does the same in your life. Even when circumstances are tough, Jesus is able to bring calm and balance because he is the very source of peace. The peace of God is like an anchor. It keeps you steady, even when the winds try to drag you away. No matter what is happening around you, this peace reminds you that God is in control. And because he is in control, you can rest. You don't need to have all the answers or solve every problem on your own. God is working, even when you can't see it. Perhaps you think, "But I can't feel that peace. How do I experience it?" The answer lies in drawing closer to God. Spend time in prayer, talk to him, listen to his voice through his word. As you connect with him, his peace begins to fill the spaces of restlessness and worry. It's a process, but God is patient and faithful in bringing calm to your heart. Remember that inner peace does not mean you won't face challenges, but that you can face them with confidence. This confidence comes from knowing that God is greater than any problem. He is the Prince of Peace, and where he is, peace reigns. The good news is that he is with you, always. Today, God invites you to rest in his peace. Let go of worries, fears, and doubts. Take a deep breath and allow his presence to calm your mind and heart. No matter what you are facing, you can find refuge in the peace he offers. This peace is not fragile or fleeting. It is a constant reminder that you are safe in God's hands. Walk with this peace in your heart. Don't let circumstances steal what God has already given you. Trust in him, and you will see how his peace can transform even the most difficult moments into opportunities for growth and renewal. The peace of God is available to you now, You just need to receive it. Waiting. How difficult and endless it can seem, right? You pray, cry out, seek answers, but they seem to never come. There are times when waiting feels like silence, an emptiness that challenges your faith and understanding. But today, I want to remind you of something essential. Waiting is not a wasted time. When you trust in God, every moment of waiting is filled with purpose, part of a greater plan He is unfolding. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. Ecclesiastes 3:1. These words teach us that God works in perfect timing. He is never early and never late. However, God's timing is different from ours. Many times, we want quick answers, immediate solutions. But God is not rushed. He is detail-oriented. He is always preparing something better, something that can only be fully enjoyed at the right moment. Perhaps you are in a period of waiting right now, waiting for a miracle, an open door, a solution to something that seems impossible. And while you wait, the silence may feel deafening. But I want to remind you of a powerful truth. God is working, even when you cannot see it. He is moving pieces, aligning circumstances, shaping hearts, including yours, so that everything fits perfectly in the time He has determined. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. Psalm 27:14. This verse is not just advice, but a call to trust. It acknowledges that waiting can be challenging, but encourages us to stand firm with courage, knowing that God never fails. Waiting is an exercise of faith, a time when we learn to depend completely on God and trust that He is in control. Waiting is also a time of preparation. Think of a tree being planted. Before it grows upward, it needs to create deep roots in the soil. This process is invisible but absolutely essential. So it is in your life. While you wait, God is strengthening your roots, building in you the strength, wisdom, and patience necessary to sustain what He is preparing. Don't undervalue this time of inner growth, even if it seems invisible. Whatever the reason for your waiting, know that God never wastes time. He is using every moment to shape you, teaching you to trust Him in ways you have never experienced before. He is refining your faith, strengthening your character, and preparing you for what is to come. And in due time, He will bring to light all that He has planned for you. As you wait, I want to encourage you to remain in prayer. Prayer not only keeps your connection with God, but also renews your hope. Speak to Him about your frustrations, your doubts, your questions. God does not mind your honesty. On the contrary, He values it. And as you pray, ask Him not only for answers but for patience and strength to navigate this period with faith. Another way to face waiting is to reflect on what God has already done for you in the past. Remember the times He answered your prayers, opened doors that seemed shut, and sustained you in difficult moments. This reinforces your confidence that He will continue to be faithful, even when the answer seems distant. Waiting is also a time for action, not action to try to rush God's plans, but to continue moving forward in obedience and trust. God does not call us to stand still but to advance with faith, even when we do not see the complete path. Keep doing what He has already called you to do, trusting that at the right moment, He will reveal the next step. This is a time for transformation. Look into your hearts and allow God to illuminate every corner of your lives with renewed hope and faith. He is calling you for a new beginning, to leave the past behind and walk hand in hand with Him towards the peace and joy that only His love can offer. Don't wait any longer to make this powerful decision. Share this message and spread God's light to more people. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and continue receiving words that strengthen the soul and warm the heart. God has something extraordinary in store for you.